And now it's time for Lloyd's Out of Context 911 Lone Star Clip of the Week.
Dad? Dad, are you okay?
Now, what was your emergency?
Our car flew up the road.
Climbing down a pole ain't so hard.
Looking for some DVDs and some shirts? Well, you could go to a thrift store, or you could visit our archive site, thecinemasnob.com, which has our various original movies and uncut DVD exclusive episodes, plus the link to our t-shirt and mug store on Bonfire, with everything from Lloyd-approved mugs to snob shirts, Saul, and more. Check it out over at thecinemasnob.com.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome in the chat. Thank you for spending this Friday night with me here. Tired as hell. It's gonna be a tired stream. Oh, I got my coffee here a little bit so that I can. I was gonna say focus, but I did just spill a little bit on the side of my mouth there. So welcome everyone in the chat. Thank you for watching this live, and if you're watching it later, thanks for watching it later on, too, in case you were somewhere else important on a Friday. Oh, we've already got some people here in the chat. We got a poll going on what grade I'm going to give to Fast X. I'll read the results of that in a little bit, but I want to point out Juju Taylor, who says, "My thought is that the only way the movie is going to get the grade of A is that Brad was on E during viewing it." E or whatever Jason Momoa's character was on in this movie. That might make me give it an A++. So yeah, it's a Friday night tired that I got going on right now, but that is good practice, I'll say, because especially when the baby is born, I might get a little more and more tired as the day goes on. But I've been preparing for this for a long time. I'm already sort of tired all the time regardless. And with my ADHD asshead, I always get broken sleep. So I'm used to waking up several times in the middle of the night, thinking of something and be grabbing my phone and the notes and be like, oh, I can put this joke in there. I can do this. I can write this. I can make this project, that project. And none of it ever happens because, one, it turns out I am not several people who can do multiple projects at the same time. But also, it's pure gibberish whenever I look at my notes the next morning. But we got a couple of reviews coming up for you. I'm going to try like hell to review Fast X, as well as I was at an early screening the other day for the Gerard Butler movie that's coming out in a couple weeks, I believe. Kandahar is what that's called. And if you're in the chat room right now, you might see Jerrid in there. Say hi to Jerrid in the chat, everybody. Or if you are not watching this live, just wave at the screen. He'll see you in spirit. So we got Jerrid in the chat right now because we got a midnight screenings coming up too. Midnight screenings review for the 2008 French horror film Martyrs. We'll see how that goes. You know how much Jerrid absolutely loves very symbolic, graphic, art house horror movies. So we'll see if he likes this one a little bit better than some of the others that he's reviewed like this. I believe maybe the biggest difference in our grades was when we reviewed a movie called In the Earth. I think I gave that B+, I think, or at least the parts of it I saw. There was a lot of strobe effects in that movie, so maybe if I saw the completed thing and didn't have to look away due to the epilepsy and everything, maybe I would have been on the same page with Jerrid. He gave it an F. I gave it a B+. I was very lenient because I don't know why he gave it an F. The movie didn't almost kill him. It didn't me either. I just had to look away a few times. Then I could look back to all the injuries that were happening to the man's foot during that film. It's like the main thing I remember from it is all this horrible stuff that kept happening to this guy's foot. I don't even remember most of the movie. There was woods, there was a lot of trees, and Jerrid was audibly sighing next to me. It was like being in an RPX theater. You know, the surround sound was even greater than the surround sound for Fast X. I'm so tired. I could use some explosions right now. I should have put in a Lloyd, I should have put in a Lloyd What If It Exploded on there, and not the 911 Lone Star clip that I had. But this is a very, very important show that we've got here. Get your Super Chat questions in, too. We'll be reading your Super Chat comments, answering your Super Chat questions throughout the show as well. But, again, got to get to some baby stuff first, because that's what my life is going to turn into. Here's the movie I saw. Also, here's baby pictures. I'm mixing it up. I am turning into the people from the Geico commercials, where it's are you turning into your parents? Yes. If I am talking about a graphic 2008 French horror film called Martyrs. And also, look at my baby pictures. So we had our second sonogram last week. I'll tell you how our day went on that. Now, we had the first sonogram some weeks back. Should probably know the specific amount of weeks, but so Laura's this big right now. What's that in weeks? It's like a tree, right? So, okay. When we had the first sonogram some weeks ago, that's when it's like, alien point of view vision looking at a peanut. But now, the second one we go in there, that's when it's all like the 3D image and shit. It kind of looks like you went to an AI art generator and just type in, what's the Cinema Snob's baby gonna look like? Take away the glasses and, the goatee or the facial hair. Let's not be a smart ass here. You can keep the bald head. That's fine, though. You probably won't be wearing a hat. He will not long after he's born, but still. So this was early last week. This was when my day was. I started out waking up early, so I could begin editing the Revenge of the Ninja Cinema Snob episode. So get a little ways into, not a long ways, but a little bit into editing that. Somewhere in the film where something terrible is happening to somebody's face, which is actually quite a bit of that movie. They had a very, very huge face injury budget on the Canon film Revenge of the Ninja. But then I had to stop editing Revenge of the Ninja so I could go see pictures of my son. Then I would get back to watching a kid kick ass in Revenge of the Ninja. That's going to be my son someday. Swinging around a sword, killing drug dealers. Start him out on the Canon Films Junior channel. So, okay, Laura and I go in there. We got all of the, they put they put the pregnancy butter on her. That's what that's called, isn't it? They put the pregnancy butter on her stomach, and then we see all kinds of images on the screen. Baby looking a bit more baby-like than before, less like an extraterrestrial peanut, and more like 3D image that's not quite like a Pixar film. More like what you would see, or not, maybe not what you would see, what your grandmother would see in line at the grocery store, and there's like dollar DVDs there, because I guess your grandma is still shopping somewhere where it's 2005. The dollar DVDs on there where it's the 3D animated movie knockoff films. So, it's not Cars, it's little cars. Which either... I don't know what's better in that scenario. Maybe Little Cars. Those are only 45 minutes long. But don't worry, people. I could just sit here and describe it like a rambling madman, or I could show you our little film strip. There he is. See? Hang on. I can do... Let me see if I can get the face down. It's different because the facial hair hasn't grown in yet. Got to get my eyes shut. Hang on. Okay. Was that right? No, I can hear the baby Huey song on the outside.
And why do I have Lloyd's voice?
You've been reincarnated. So just get that in there. It was great when, and the top picture there with a little arrow that says male, you know what it's pointed to. He's gonna be a star. There's the more peanutty. There he is right there. So top picture is like, what if he grows up to be an exploitation film star? Bottom picture is what if he is in very highbrow films like 2001: A Space Odyssey. So when this first came on screen, we're sitting there watching it, and the images are like kind of coming together, so there's like little like black patches through it where like the pixels are coming into form. Like I said, it's like watching an animated film being born. So when there was like a little hole about right there when they were again trying to get a clear picture on there, Laura's sitting there, and at first it's just we were both kind of tired. Laura's sitting there going like, is that a hole in his head? And they're like, no, it is. There's no hole in the head. And I'm going like, well, if there is, he's regenerating. Ooh, Laura's like, this could be good news. It could be that hole in the head quickly healed up. We might have an X-Men. Regardless if that's the case, we're gonna be rich. Then I came back home. And finished editing Revenge of the Ninja. Got that posted up the other day, so I can throw you towards there. We got a few things going on over on Patreon right now. We have the Patreon poll going on for what'll be the Cinema Snob episode after Revenge of the Ninja. A lot to choose from right there, people. There's a couple on there that I don't think they've been on one of these polls before, and a few not returning champions, but returning losers. We've got the immoral Mr. T's. That's one of your choices. The riveting story about what anesthesia was like in the late 50s, early 60s, where you go to the dentist's office, you get your teeth worked on, but because of the drugs and everything, you could just go around, you could just walk around seeing women naked. That's what all of these nudie flicks from that time period have taught me, whether it's X-ray glasses that honestly plot-wise makes more sense than what happens in this film. At least that says on them X-ray glasses, and like, wow. But in the immoral Mr. T's, no, it's just some gas from the doctors. It's going to be very interesting when Laura and I go to the doctor, I take a whiff of that gas. And there's body chemistry. We're getting into Skinamax territory there. That one will be fun for me to watch, in that I've only seen Body Chemistry 4. That was the Shannon Tweed one. So Cinemax aired that one a lot more. But the first one's the Mark Singer one. 5 Minutes to Live. That's the Johnny Cash thriller where he's a killer who holds a woman hostage. We got the Albert Puyun film Cyborg as one of the choices. And still on there, still going kind of strong, is Something Short of Paradise. It is, not to give away where the standing is currently on the poll right now, because the poll's going until Monday. So if you want to vote in that, go to patreon.com/thecinemasnob. We'll put a link there in the description for you as well. So, like with the Revenge of the Ninja poll, which obviously Revenge of the Ninja won, it was the first time that Something Short of Paradise came in second place. It usually hovers around fourth or fifth place. This one, it's slowly growing. And with this current poll that we got going on, it's still hanging in there in second place, little higher than before. The one that's winning right now is the one that I kind of predicted would win. But there is still time. It could catch up. It's not close, but it isn't so far ahead where it's like, well, this poll is over, I might as well end it now. No, it could still technically be the rom-com Something Short of Paradise. Though, speaking of, I won't say what this movie is either, but speaking of loser, I think this is the first time where one of the choices is so low on there that it is polling at 1% right now, which means, I don't know, only as many people who voted on it I could probably count on my hand. That's how many who want to see this. So I'll have to, we'll see if that one changes. It would be the biggest miracle I'd ever seen if that one catches up to being number one and overtakes the number one choice in Something Short of Paradise. But again, also up for early viewing. Let me pull it on up there. Hang on. Yeah, there it is. Revenge of the Ninja. Revenge of the Ninja is up for early viewing right now, the Cinema Snob episode. It is currently going through copyright. I've had a couple in a row like that with Left Behind 2, which did get made public Wednesday. I think that one got cleared. This one, at least, it's going through an appeal right now where it can still be it can still be monetized and everything while it's going through appeals. So unless something happens, that one should still be going public on Monday. But that's the Canon Film Ninja movie, Revenge of the Ninjas, over there on Patreon. All right. Do I have any other housekeeping I got to get to here? Let me think in my head. Okay. Lloyd showed a crazy clip from 911 Lone Star where the car got stuck up in the telephone pole somehow. That happened. Wait till you see the 911 clip that'll be after that one. That's what I've been doing on the treadmill lately, is getting caught up on 911 Lone Star. Let's see. It talked about my son somehow worked in a little Cars reference and shopping and picking up cheap DVDs. Oh, well, Laura did get to treat herself. You know, we had a great week last week with seeing the Sonogram and everything, and she treated herself there. She's got a pregnancy onesie going on that is so comfortable with the hood and the space it's got in there. That looks so cozy. I might have to get myself one of those too. I'm just saying that would have been really, really, really comfortable after I did the episode on the Ghost Pepper Whopper and also the breakfast ramen that I had last week. Oh, it's like I now understand. They're like that episode of Friends where Joey he bet that he could eat the whole turkey, and he was able to do so because he was wearing Phoebe's old pregnancy pants. I will absolutely hang on to Laura's pregnancy pants and the hood and everything. It just looks really, really cozy and really comfortable. Okay, we're going to review Fast X here in a second. Let me pull up my notes. Then we'll get to some super chat questions. We got the Gerard Butler movie Kandahar. I pull up my notes, taking notes on Fast X. Sure. Why not? Sitting there watching, God, like taking notes on a Saturday morning cartoon. Which actually, I have done that before. Because I had an episode on the Q*bert Saturday morning cartoon series. Oh man, that's the one thing that school prepared me with very well. The whole art of taking notes. No, it wasn't going to turn into anything on rocket science or anything like that, but maybe a porn parody of Hidden Figures. Then an October Sky. It prepared me for that. I know what movies I'm going to be looking for after this. Okay. Let's go ahead and get to the 10th film in the Fast and the Furious saga. After 10 movies, or 11 if you count Hobbs and Shaw, there's still some things in this franchise that work. The cinematography, the editing, the desire to go batshit with how preposterous the action scenes are, but doing it with such a straight face that they're aware of it, but are also like, oh no, this is totally normal what we're doing here. Why would you question any of this? I like when the authorities in the movie break it down like, we've had law enforcement agencies pursuing them, then they join them and become their family. They're like a cult with cars. That's kind of true. I wish they pursued more of that point of view. Or at the least something different, because these movies have all tried to top the one that came before it. And they've certainly evolved over the years. How these last four are with how, like, the first four are. But this one, I don't know. This one feels like they've really settled in to a formula that was kind of a detriment to it and made me exhausted while watching it. Again, we have a villain coming out of nowhere for revenge. Again, there's previous villains who are now working with our heroes. And again, we're back to tying things to the previous movies and showing them from a different point of view and re-editing them. The last movie went into space, whereas here, it's crazy, certainly, but I'm tired. That's the theme of this episode. Maybe that's why I'm so exhausted in this episode. It's not that this movie is any dumber than the others. It's not that the action makes any more or less sense. But when you have all of these movies with these soap opera-like rules of people who die and then constantly come back, not only does the action feel a little redundant, but there aren't exactly any stakes anymore. Here's a movie where a car drives down a dam, where a car drives into a crane that hits a gigantic spherical bomb into the water like it's a golf ball. And somehow that was all just going in one ear and out the other, and it just wasn't that suspenseful to me anymore. It's at the point where all of this crazy shit just feels like it's on autopilot, like it's kind of generic, which is a weird thing to say. When two characters start fighting, it's more like they're fighting because there's a script note that says there should be a fight scene here, not because it makes sense that there's a giant fight scene that's going on. And when someone dies in this, it's supposed to be dramatic, but it's unintentionally funny. And I am sitting there like, I don't believe this person's actually dead. Even in this same movie, you'll see characters come back who haven't been here in a little while. And there's already too many characters. Like they've added more and more and more to their barbecue table that always bookends the film. They've added so much that all of these characters are kind of fighting each other for plots and screen time. It's very, very crammed. Like, it's definitely a globe-trotting movie where you're just kind of following different groups of these characters throughout it. You know, quite a few of them have done stuff like that. And because of that, there's plots that are more engaging than others. I thought I would be annoyed about the side plot with John Cena basically on a road trip with Dom's kid. But some of that was actually pretty good. That was one of the better plot lines in this. Those two, like John Cena and this kid, they are funny together. And the kid is not written as annoying or obnoxious. They were funny. They played off of each other very, very, very well. But then it'll cut to things like Tyrese and Ludacris and that group, like going into, here's, this hacker store that, of course, Pete Davidson is working in. Only Han eats one of Pete Davidson's muffins. Oh, no, he begins hallucinating after that, like it's a gag you'd see in a 2000s Michael Bay Transformers film. This movie's better than those, but you catch my drift here. The best part of the movie, and you've probably heard this in a lot of reviews, it is Jason Momoa. Every time he is on screen, the movie works. I don't love this film. I'm not as into it as I have been in the others. It really does feel, like I said, formulaic to a fault at this point. But whenever he's there, it comes alive. He is having a ball in this film, basically playing this combination of like a male model, Castor Troy, and a comic book villain, like the Joker, basically. There is a scene in this where he's just outside having a conversation by himself because the two people he's talking to are dead henchmen, in which he has taped their eyes open. One guy he's taped a smile to, like I am suddenly watching a serial killer film. Like, there's this sequence in it with him just going batshit, cackling with these dead bodies that suddenly it's like Michele Soavi took over as director, and it's becoming an Italian horror film. I'm seeing that in some of these movies here lately, between Mafia Mama turning into a Lucio Fulci movie every now and then. And then this one, here's Jason Momoa talking to a couple of dead bodies, and it is like the best scene in the movie. I was sitting there going like, are they dead? They look dead. I think they're dead. Yeah, okay, they're dead. It's things like that that make up for really how bad the rest of the dialogue is. And look, I know that the dialogue in all of these movies, even the better ones, it's not like we're talking like, it's not like at their best they're like Tarantino best or something like that. No, the dialogue's always certainly been very cheesy. Only here, it is like, was that a placeholder line and you just forgot to dub a much better line over? There's a part where a car chase is happening and some nuns are crossing the street, and then Tyrese yells out, "Watch out, ladies, this ain't none of your concern." That happens, and it happens early on, and it kind of sets the mood for what a lot of the dialogue in this movie is going to be. I don't know. It's not like there isn't a lot going on in it. There certainly is. And yeah, the action scenes, they're very cartoonish. They're the type of action sequences you would expect to see in a movie like this. But again, it just feels too much like the last few that I don't feel like I'm really getting anything new or evolving here. I certainly don't see enough material here to where this needs to be split up into a couple of films, which is what they're doing with this last entry. No, when it gets to this could have wrapped up, to be perfectly honest, in this film. But it's a C+. It's a C+ for Jason Momoa. And a lot of the actors do still have pretty good chemistry. And look, I might not have been as into a lot of the action sequences here, but it isn't like there isn't some thought going into, let's see how this looks with the car racing down a dam with all of these explosions going off. Okay. Let's talk about... Let's get to the super chat questions in here. We'll do the super chat questions, then I'll talk about Kandahar. Okay. Pull these up for you guys. All right, this is from Matt Florent, who says, Martyrs, a movie so depressing I have to watch a Serbian film after to cheer myself up after. I don't know if I go that far. I mean, neither one is exactly a walk through the park. Well, it depends on where the park is. Depends on if there's serial killers lurking around in the bushes. Then, maybe it will be. I'm saying between the two, there were, I don't know, a couple moments of people smiling in Martyrs, maybe. Eclectic Ennui goes, Jim Brown passed away yesterday. I just saw that news today. Yeah, what's your favorite film he's in? Are you a fan of The Dirty Dozen? It probably is The Dirty Dozen. Slaughter was good. Yeah, probably is The Dirty Dozen. That was the movie of his I did watch the most when I was younger. Yeah, maybe I'll have to do something Jim Brown related. Not sure. Maybe Original Gangsters or something. Yeah, I didn't realize he was 87. He made it a long way. But yeah, it'd be cool to go revisit some of his, especially Dirty Dozen and Slaughter. JP Fryan, if you were a Hollywood director, what actors would you most and least want to work with? Also, why are many actors hard to work with in your opinion? Which actors would I most and least want to work with? Least want to work with? I don't know. That one I have no idea. Most one, George Lazenby is one that I had always wanted to work with. Giovanni, I talked about this a little bit either last week or the week before, but Giovanni Lombardo Radice was one. Like, because I mentioned this, where it was about 20 years ago. We did get in touch with him for something, but it was a project that we ended up just not doing. George Lazenby, we asked about for another Cinema Snob movie, and with him, he was only wanting to do some movies that were like local, like where he is. He didn't really want to travel too far away from where he lives. But hey, if I ever do a movie around there, George Lazenby, totally. As for why some actors are hard to get along with, I don't know. I mean, ego, certainly. Like, it's hard to, no matter what you do in terms of a creative field, you're always, like, you've kind of got to have a little bit of an ego. If you're creating something, if you're performing, if you're putting something out there, sure. It's just all how you grow, certainly, as a person. And just check yourself, contain it, keep yourself very, 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 very grounded. But, you know, if you're surrounded by a lot of yes people, and, you know, you've been doing it a while, where you're kind of the same person you were when you started, only what was sort of worse about you is skyrocketed since then. Social media will certainly have that effect, where if you live on social media, whatever problems you had going on in there before, you multiply that by about 100. So, like, when I'm on Twitter, I just post links, basically. So, yeah, that's what it is. I think it's just kind of, you know, ego kind of just gets to some people, and narcissism and all that. But, you know, even with that said, you can still grow as a person. You can still be a way better person than you were years ago when maybe you were hard to work with. I think there's some more in here as well. Jacob Matthew Crawford, bummed I missed today's Patreon Q&A. Oh yeah, we did that over on Patreon earlier. If you're a subscriber over on Patreon, we do little text Q&As there. Which film had the rougher production, Cheap or Suburban Nights? Suburban Nights that was the easiest role I ever had, was Suburban Nights. It was kind of, was it? Yeah, it was a little cold when that was shot. I was all right because I was Indiana Jones, so I had a coat on. But I came in and did like a Harrison Ford impression, like whenever my character had to talk. I had a really easy time on that. With Cheap is a movie I wrote and directed. It was released in 2005. That one was hard, yeah, because I wrote, directed, and I was one of the main characters in it, and I edited it too. And that movie took a while to make, because, you know, it certainly wasn't my full-time job at the time. I was still a radio DJ when I made that movie. So it was, you know, working around everybody's schedule. And also we were just still in our partying days back then. So it was, again, it took a very long time to make that movie. Also because I remember there was an issue with a couple of the actresses in it. This was around when Passion of the Christ came out. And for those of you who don't know, I directed this movie called Cheap that was about snuff filmmakers. A guy basically makes his own, essentially a shot-on-video remake of A Last House on Dead End Street. So it's, yeah, about this sleazy porn producer who picks up a series of snuff films made by a director. That's the character I played, who has a sex offender cameraman working for him and two girls who wandered in off the street. So these two girls who were in it, they were in a lot of my movies. Like, I've known them for a very long time. He even did movies with them since. But The Passion of the Christ came out when we were making this. So, yeah, a couple of the actors, they found religion. I'm not even kidding. During the making of this movie, and then didn't want to continue with it because of how graphic it was. And it was pretty graphic. Like there's a lot of like really, really, really graphic stuff in it that isn't in the final cut. Like the scenes are, but they were like kind of trimmed because it did get cartoonishly excessive. So anyway, we worked out like a thing with them where if they continue in the movie, we would use doubles for them in the violent scenes, which that wasn't hard to do. Like the characters wear masks anyway, so it was like myself doubling for him sometimes, and also my buddy Nick Foster, who he played the cameraman in the movie. He's been in like all my movies. So it was me and him doubling for like the girls in some of the scene. Basically, whenever you see something violent and the girl characters are in it, they're doubles. But yeah, that production was that was hard. It was just long. That's all it was. Of the ones I directed, yeah, it was probably the most difficult. But I was also, when I wrote that movie, I was deep in my drug days, so it was a long script. The script was like longer than the Bible. It was like well over 200 some pages long. It was like really long for a script. And then when we shot it, I think like it was cut down to like, I think it's an hour and 50 minutes long. But if I had kept in everything, it'd be like a 3-hour movie. And that'll never get released. I've still got the raw footage for it, but like any extended cut of that, like it would never ever be getting released. Okay, I think we're caught up on the super chat questions right here. So let's go on to our review for the next movie. Gerard Butler and Kandahar. Okay, so this is what I went to go see on Monday. Actually, it kind of sucks here 5 days later trying to recall what happened in the Gerard Butler movie Kandahar. This is the Monday mystery movie. I was like, there were two things I thought it would be. One was this movie when I was guessing what the mystery film would be. The other is the Burt Kreischer movie The Machine. I thought it would be one of those two. Either one I was looking forward to, like, because I like Gerard Butler movies a lot. I love Burt Kreischer, so I'm looking forward to seeing The Machine. So yeah, okay, the movie turned out to be this film. So I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, I'm cool with seeing a Gerard Butler movie early, a couple weeks before it comes out. Sure, I never got a trailer for this film, but this movie is from the director of Greenland, which was a Gerard Butler disaster movie that I loved. It was a surprisingly great disaster film. It was one of the best disaster films I'd seen in a while. And in terms of not really ever getting a trailer for this film, Kandahar, even that, I'm like, this could still be really, really good. Because I never got a trailer for Cop Shop before I went to go see that. And that I ended up putting as like number one on my favorite movies of that year. I loved Cop Shop. So with this one, I'm like, well, maybe, it's got some pluses going into it, and all of that, it kind of led to Kandahar being a colossal disappointment. I mean, the movie seems simple enough. Gerard Butler and his translator have to get to Kandahar because his cover's been blown and the Taliban is chasing them. Between this and Plane was the better Gerard Butler movie about him getting to a plane. But you ever see one of those movies where in the first act, I didn't want to get up to use the restroom, not because I was riveted or anything, simply because I didn't want to miss what the movie's about. It's so scattered in the first part. Sometimes we're with the translator, sometimes we're with a kidnapped journalist, and then every now and then Gerard Butler comes in with every cliche in the book. He has to get back to America so he can finally sign the divorced papers with his wife he's separated from, but he also has to make it to his daughter's recital or something. Like it's also worked in rom-com cliches. There's moments of inspiration sometimes, like a chase with a helicopter in the dead of night where they have to use night vision. But aside from that, the movie's an unstructured bore. I would forget about certain plot points until they would just turn up again later on in the movie. When the kidnapped journalist comes back into it, I thought, oh, right, I completely forgot that was a character who was in this. There is a long time between her time showing up in the film. Hell, one of the main villains in it dies like earlier than you would expect him to, and I didn't even realize like he wasn't coming back. It wasn't until later I was like, oh, right, I think that guy actually is dead, and he's no longer in the film. Oh, hey, is the journalist going to come back? What journalist? Oh, that character? Oh, right, I don't know. Yeah, whatever did happen to that? We'll find out, I guess. You know what this movie reminded me of the most? Do you remember the John Hamm movie, Beirut? It sort of reminded me a little of that, just like tonally, even the way it's shot and edited, and also in that it's not like it's terrible. You know, Beirut wasn't terrible. This movie isn't terrible. It's not like I'm miserable while watching it, but it just lacks such a uniqueness for itself that it's so forgettable as I'm watching it, and that made it feel like long. I think it's 2 hours, but it felt like kind of a long sit. It's the definition of a C. It's something so average I can't think of anything else to give it. But hey, that comes out in a couple weeks. Watch Greenland instead. Watch Cop Shop instead. I think this director also did the director also did Angel Has Fallen. That one was fine. Of his Gerard Butler movies, Greenland is the best one. But yeah, I'm not sure how well this movie will do when it comes out. I always love, whenever I go see one of these Monday mystery movies, I always love going online afterwards and seeing what other people are saying about it, because you see them early enough that it's before, like, you know what the critical word is going to be on it, so you can kind of only guess in that department. But what kind of helps you in guessing right there is to go on like the Regal page and just see what other people are saying about it. So if you don't like something, you can kind of check to see if you're like alone or not on disliking it. All right, so it doesn't look I got any more super chat questions right now, which means we'll go to our week. Jared and I have a midnight screenings review right here for Martyrs. Let me make sure I got it queued up. Yeah, okay. All right, and if you want to do now midnight screenings reviews, they are requested over on Patreon. If you're a top tier contributor on Patreon, there'll be a link there in the description. It'll take you to the blog post, or in the comment section over on the blog post. That's where you make your choices. And make them interesting, too. The more interesting they are, the sooner that they get, the sooner they bump up on the list and get picked. So that's over at patreon.com/thecinemasnob. Or again, click on the link in the description. But, okay. Take it away, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. See, what I'll do is I'll have myself lead into
Clever. Clever.
The only reason why I'm going to do that is just so I can start out that way without telling you about it first.
I was a bit...
You're like, did I just brain fart through the entire review and just went to my happy place and ended up here at the end?
You're like, thanks, Brad. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
So anyway, I imagine you probably did have to go to your happy place a couple of times during the 2008 French film Martyrs that we just watched. This is recommended to us by James Didcock, by the way. That was the request he made over at patreon.com/thecinemasnob. And I didn't know until, because this is on Tubi, because most everything we watch is over on Tubi. This one was over on Tubi TV. I actually didn't know until we were over there that this has a remake, an American remake in like 2015 or 16, I think, or something like that. I had no idea about that. And then I looked at the score for the remake, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's why I haven't heard of this.
Why? What's on the score?
It's got a low.
Oh!
Like,
you don't mean musical score?
No. No, it's got a low like critic and audience score. The remake does.
Gotcha.
So but then I was also like, I hope it's the original that he recommended to us.
Right.
Although now I kind of hope that, just out of pure curiosity, I kind of hope someone does recommend the remake, just so I can. Just so I can compare the two. Now, this is, given the kind of movie that this is, this very graphic, French art house horror film, anymore, no matter whether you're there or not, I'm always like, boy, I would like to get Jared's thoughts on this. So with this, I'm like, so what did you think of this film?
Dude, this movie was so disturbing.
Sure.
It was graphic. It was suspenseful. It was well written. I just at the end of it, we got done with it, and I was actually like shook. I was actually like questioning existence and everything.
You were questioning how harsh you usually are towards art house horror films. Now are you suddenly like, maybe I should give In the Earth another chance?
Yes. You see, what made this movie so good is the fact that they were speaking French.
Well,
and there were subtitles.
I didn't know if you were liking this movie or not. Like, did you like the movie?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I think so. That is the perfect way to. Did you like Martyrs? I think so.
It's just like I said, it really disturbed me, but I guess it disturbed me in a kind of good way.
Because that's the intent of the movie.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and you were sighing less during this than you usually are when we watch a movie. Like, I've never seen this movie before. I know what it is. I'd heard of it. I remember when it came out. I remember the reviews at the time. I remember some people kind of mentioning it on message boards or elsewhere online. I think some people might have recommended it to us in the comments back when it came out. But just I was never avoiding it, just for whatever reason, never saw it. So when this got recommended to us, I even responded to the guy over. Well, I responded to all of them on Patreon, but I did respond to him and say, like, good choice. I've never seen this. This gives me an gives me an excuse to watch it. I like the setup that it has at the beginning of it, where it starts out with this young girl. She has been abducted, tortured, and held in this slaughterhouse that she escapes. And then it's about 15 years later, and you meet this family in like the first 5 or so minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I mean, I was kind of sitting there thinking like, oh, these might be the main characters in the movie or something like that.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of information about this family just upon first glance.
Yeah.
Like little trophies they have, their banter back and forth, what their relationship is like.
Sure.
Newspaper clippings that they have. Yep. That gives you a chance to know them enough before the next thing happens.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
And so it was at this point you paused it to like go to the bathroom, and I'm just like, I don't know who to root for or
because it's the older girl who comes in who thinks that the parents in this family are the ones who took her and tortured her.
Yeah.
But she kills the whole family.
Yeah.
She kills. It's not a spoiler. It's in like the first 5 minutes.
I was going to say, are we
it's like
just
the first 5 minutes of the movie. I'm not going to spoil everything about this, but that is like the first 5 minutes of the movie. But
and so she just rings the doorbell. The husband opens it, boom, and she just slaughters the entire family, and I'm just kind of like, Jesus, and then you like I said, as the movie progresses, you find out who's who, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, now I'm a bit torn, but I guess I get it. Like, I kind of understand a little bit better.
You know what was more distracting than than me having to pause it was the commercial breaks in it.
Yes.
We watch this on Tubi TV, and Tubi TV has no rhyme or reason to what the commercial breaks are.
So you got this really disturbing movie, really dark, disturbing movie that will just pause and say, call a State Farm agent now.
I know, like it will be
coverage.
in the middle of something violent. It's not like you're watching a movie on television where it's like there'll be a fade or they'll add it. Well, there are fades. We'll get to that in a minute. But like, you know what I mean? Like where like you're watching a made-for-TV movie and there's the commercial breaks, but it'll be just in the middle of somebody getting like beaten or their head caved in or they're screaming something terrible at them, and then it'll cut to like, my teeth are white because I'm a Chris kid. Like, yeah. Are you looking for health insurance? Well, I am now. So that was actually pretty funny. Like it was like we were getting some laughs out of that.
We were
in the first act of it. Like I was thinking in my head that I thought I knew where the movie would go, and there's one thing where the kind of reveal is what I thought it would be, and you and I both said the same thing.
Yeah.
Where there's this like figure that keeps popping up and attacking one of the characters. I was like, I have a feeling I know what that is, and that came true.
Yeah.
But elsewhere, when I was thinking in my head, like, I bet, you know, it's gonna turn out this is this is that. So in the first act, I was thinking, this is pretty fierce and brutal. I'm entertained, but I have a feeling I know where it's going. Luckily, I really didn't. This movie takes a couple of turns to where I was going, this is actually a fairly unpredictable film.
Really? Because I'll tell you, I felt like I was predicting it most of the way through until pretty much the end. Until about... You know, whenever I said, well, you're screwed, whenever I told that character, well, you're screwed.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
so did you see it coming with, I'm not going to give anything away. Did you see it coming with the family, like, in the basement? When she finds all of that stuff in the basement? Because at first you're kind of thinking...
Oh. Well, now that part, no...
Because that, for me, is where I was like, okay, this is starting to go in a different direction
the confirmation.
than I thought it would. Yeah. The confirmation I didn't see, but right after that, whenever the group showed up, I was like, oh, well, you're screwed. I didn't see that coming either. I didn't. And I'll say, like, the movie has it's got a lot of different themes that work. One kind of being this very kind of Catholic-y movie about sainthood and martyrdom, mixed in with a movie about trust as well, between the dynamic of the two girls who go in the house, and trust on the part of one of the girl, not the one who kills the family, but the other girl, but also on the audience too, because myself sitting there, I was going, I don't know if I really believe this is all kind of, that this is what this girl thinks it is. Yeah. And it is kind of playing on what you would believe if you're presented with this information at first glance, like the friend in the movie is. Yeah. So I like those themes about the movie. I had some issues with the third act. I don't think this is a great film. I did like it. I liked the movie. Overall, I did. Yeah. And I was glad I saw it. I don't know if it's something I'd watch again.
No. God, no. Just the intensity of everything that happened was just... Yeah, no, I'm good. I saw it.
It's a very, very memorable film, especially in regards to... I guess you would call this movie like a distant cousin of a home invasion movie. In term, like a little bit. Yeah. And in terms of that, it's certainly more memorable than the usual fare like that. What was the one that we did? What was it called? Tiger House. Remember? Like it was. I don't blame you for not. Like you did, like in the chat the other day when you didn't remember Beyond the Reach, the Michael Douglas movie.
Okay, so real quick, Tiger House was what?
It was the one where the crooks break into the house and the girl is...
Oh! Okay, yeah.
That's pretty much...
Yeah.
That should, everything I just said right there, as vague as it is, and not even a complete sentence, should totally be the IMDb plot summary for it.
It's literally all I needed to jog my memory. Okay, yeah.
The third act of this, granted, it goes in areas I wasn't expecting.
Oh, God, no.
I did like the ending. But before then, there is a part, and you said this when we were watching it, and I was thinking it too, which is... You really should call an ambulance or call a cop.
Right!
Like that, granted, I don't know how much that would have helped, but
it would have
the attempt.
It would have prevented the last act, the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which, holy hell, like throughout the second act and everything, I was like, you need to call an ambulance, you need to call the cops, you just need to get the hell out of that house. And then that group shows up and I'm just like, well, you're screwed.
And there is a lot of time between her finding this one thing and that group showing up. Now, if it happened if one happened right after the other, I'd be like, well, okay. I can buy it a little bit.
But there was a lot, like you said, a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, you're screwed now.
I know. And then the last 20 minutes are pretty repetitive. Like, there are maybe like 20 fade to blacks.
Said that, the end was...
I like the end.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I did like the ending. Like the ending was brutal for one, but also what that one lady does too at the end is also like kind of funny.
Right? Because it's like, what's the point? What was the point of the whole thing? What was the point?
I liked that.
Of the whole thing? And I'm just kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah. It was, I know, she's taking... You should watch it. You should just watch it. And like,
but viewer discretion is advised. it's a very intense.
It's on Tubi TV. Yeah. When isn't viewer discretion advised? Even the faith-based section on there is like. So what grade would you fall on this?
Oh God. God, that's hard. It is really hard for me to grade this movie right now because I just don't know. Should I go with the artistically I'm like, oh yeah, A. Sure. And then like, but like my gut instincts is just like F, and so I'm just like
but it was just like it did its job.
I'm just like wrestling with myself right now.
No, it was for what this movie's intended purpose was, it succeeded at it.
True,
I think it's flawed. I think it's got some flaws with pacing, a couple other issues in the third act, but for the unpredictable nature of it, for the brutality of it, it is very, very, very memorable. And I liked the ride. Overall, I did. I was glad I saw it. I was glad I eventually saw it, and I wasn't disappointed by it. Can't say I loved the movie necessarily.
Sure.
But no, I did like it. Like, and I think if you're fans of this kind of horror movie, one, you've probably already seen the movie by now. You probably saw it in 2008. Sure. I'd give it a B+. I'd give it a B+.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll agree with that. Because you're right. It did intend to suspend us, keep us in suspense.
Yeah.
It did. It did intend to be brutal. It did. It was disturbing. It turned it to be disturbing, and it did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. B+.
Yeah.
B+.
Laura would like this. She would. She likes movies like this.
Really?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When we go back up there, I'll say to my pregnant wife, you know what you would love? Getting the kids started early.
Here, let's put some headphones on your stomach so the kid can listen in.
Yeah. So, all right.
It's in French. He'll learn
It's true.
French.
That is a way you could
He'll learn French.
Yeah. Let's see that infomercial. Right, back to you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. That made me laugh. The whole time going in there, be like, I'll mess with Jerrid at the beginning of it and just start up by talking to myself on the other end of the camera. Although you might have noticed the action film going on in the background of that video, where there was a whole skateboard film going on in the parking garage where we shot it, which surprisingly, I mean, I could hear it going on in the background when we were recording it, but it didn't distract me too much. I guess I was so focused in on talking about Martyrs that I would like kind of hear him back there. And then Jerrid would say after, like, did you hear one of them accidentally bump into the car? And I'm like, surprisingly, no. I guess I was just really, really engaged talking about the graphic violence, literally skin-churning violence in Martyrs. There's been some weirdness that have happened in the background when we've done midnight screenings. There was one time, I don't know what reviews these were for, but there was one time when we were in a car, obviously we're reviewing a movie, but it was down in Springfield, and some guys came up to the side of the car, knocked on the window, and asked if we wanted to smoke pot. I don't remember what video it was, or it might have been cut out of the episode, but I think that was within the first like couple or few years that we were doing the show. There was one time Brian and I were reviewing something, and then some cops came up to the side of the car asking what we were doing, because we were filming it in a school parking lot that was like right by where one of us lived at the time. We were like, oh, we needed, I think we were reviewing something that we watched at home, so we had to go somewhere where there was decent enough lighting and not as much traffic in the background. So cops pulled up like, what are you doing in this parking lot here at midnight? So, well, that's part of the title for the show. We're just talking about a movie. We swear, we actually are. We have the video camera right here. They were actually really, really nice, and they were like, oh, if you want to use any of this footage, go right ahead. I don't remember if it made it in that particular review or not, but all right, let's answer these last couple of super chat questions, and then I'll call it a night. Eclectic Ennui says, with Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon coming out later this year, what's your favorite film that he directed? Man, I love Casino. It's hard to say, like, especially for the soundtrack, because Scorsese movies typically have a great soundtrack. I don't know. I just love the Vegas epicness of it. The whole arc it has with all of the characters and the dude's marriage, going through these different eras of Vegas entertainment. I love it. I really love Casino. I mean, of course, Goodfellas. I watched Mean Streets a lot when I was a kid. Yeah, I remember I used to have like the big Warner clamshell for that too. I would put in some nods of Mean Streets in some of my movies as well. I think I did a movie called The Hooker with a Heart of Gold, and that, like, near the beginning had like a nod to Mean Streets. After Hours I watched a ton, especially in high school. After Hours was a comedy he did in 1985. It's a dark comedy where Griffin Dunn plays a guy who goes to Soho to hook up with Rosanna Arquette, and things don't go well, so it's just like a series of just bad things happening to this character as he's trying to get home, and all these wacky people and situations that he keeps running into. It's fantastic. Going back to, I would put some nods of that in some movies I did too. When I did that movie Cheap, that had some After Hours references in it. I think fucking Paranoia did too. But yeah, those are probably the ones that I've watched the most. Jacob Matthew Crawford says, with the war in Ukraine, well, does it ever great super chat question start out like that? With the war in Ukraine, what's your favorite episode of Cheers? I normally would have had an answer, but that setup threw me off. with the war in Ukraine, do you think you'd review the Afghan-Soviet war film The Beast that stars George Zunza, Stephen Bauer, and Stephen Baldwin? Well, you had me at Stephen Baldwin. I don't know if I'd ever get around to that movie. If it's requested on midnight screenings, totally. But there is one that, what is it? It's like Afghan War Bus. Oh, it's an 80s one. It was from the people behind Thunder Warrior. And I referenced it in the Thunder Warrior episodes. Like, that sounds like it's something kind of along those lines. I'm just guessing. That one I would do so I could tie it into Thunder Warrior. David Kaplan goes, what upcoming film that you have no expectations for? What upcoming film that you have no expectations for do you have a feeling might surprise you? And what film are you excited about that might be bad? I'll have to ask my future self. I have to look and see what's even coming up. Let me just pull up a list because I see so many movies that I can't keep track of what's even coming out next week or the week after. It's hard for me to even keep track what I saw like a week ago, unless it's something like awful. Like I'm gonna remember at the end of the year that I saw Knights of the Zodiac. I'll just type in June 3 movie releases. Okay, June 2023 releases. That's an old list. All I want to know. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm sure that'll be good. Boogeyman, I don't know. That's the Stephen King one, and there's not a good track record with movies called Boogeyman. So there's there's that Transformers movie coming. There's ones where it's like, it's not like I'm looking forward to them, but I'm guessing they might just be kind of mediocre, like Transformers. It's like, I'm not looking forward to that, but it might just be kind of middle of the road. Same with The Little Mermaid. I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm like, is this just gonna kind of be forgettable? I'm excited about The Flash because of Michael Keaton, because I've been waiting for this for 30 years. Michael Keaton returning as Batman, and I hope I'm not disappointed. I hope it's not like, well, okay, it's Michael Keaton returning, but it doesn't feel like it's the same character. Like, I hope it's not like that, where it's like just kind of like self-aware, that feels more like a sketch that you got Michael Keaton back to play Batman for. I don't want it to be like that. There is that one part in the trailer where I'm just going like, you just had to do it, didn't you? Where they make him say, "Let's get nuts." I am like, okay, I don't want to be cynical. I've been waiting for this for such a long time. I want to be excited going into this. All right, they threw in the line from the other one. Let's hope the rest of this is all right. So yeah, that I am really looking forward to, but who knows? I might be disappointed. Corey Sadler, congrats on the bundle of joy on the way. Thank you. I do love my job at the bowling alley. I love quoting that Simpsons episodes. Also, the two kitties are adorable. What's their names? Oh, that's Bert and Pearl. Bert and Pearl, by the way, who make their first appearance in the Revenge of the Ninja episode that's coming. I wasn't sure if if I was gonna give them like a segment or not, or something like that, because I didn't want to take away from Lloyd. Like, I didn't want, when Lloyd passed away, and I had at the time retired those segments like 911 Lone Star Clip of the Week, what if it exploded? But then I thought, well, that's still a good way to keep his memory alive, is to keep some of those going, especially with, you can see Bert and Pearl in the background sometimes, and Bert and Pearl are in Revenge of the Ninja. This is a good way to, if I think of a funny gag for Bert and Pearl, like the one in Revenge of the Ninja is pretty funny. It makes me feel better knowing that, like, the stuff with Lloyd continues to just make sure not only was he a huge part of the site and will always be the mascot of it, but to just keep his memory ongoing and to keep it alive in future parts. When we got Bert and Pearl, we were planning on getting a new cat, certainly, but we had to, because you were still mourning Lloyd. I think about it every single day. But we wanted to, of course, we'd have eventually had gotten other cats, because all my life I've had Siamese cats. So, and we especially would want our son to grow up with Siamese as well. And we got him sooner than we probably would have. We timed it out to where we got him early enough that when our son is born, the cats would already be settled in the house and everything, and be used to everything and be comfortable around everything. Like, that would be a lot easier than waiting a while until around when he's born. Then it would be harder to bring cats in, and then simultaneously kind of the baby, the cats, and all that. So we wanted to get them early enough so they could kind of be used to everything. And also, when we came across Bert and Pearl, they're siblings, they're brother and sister, and we didn't want them to end up being split up. Like, if they hadn't gone to us, it's possible they would have gone to different owners and been split up. We didn't want that for them. So, we wanted the two of them to be together, to live together, be raised together, grow old together, all of that. And also, when the baby comes, the two cats will have each other, be entertained. They're already chasing each other around and stuff like that. So, but look for their appearance in Revenge of the Ninja. That should be up on Monday. All right, I'll go ahead and get out of here. Let you guys get back to your Friday night. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you in the super chat. Be sure to vote in our Patreon poll for the upcoming Cinema Snob episode. That's patreon.com/thecinemasnob. Thanks a bunch for watching, everyone. Take care. Have a great weekend.